101 actually. I was waiting on a couple more people to join us, but I think we're just going to go ahead and get started, and they can jump in when they get here. So welcome to the Discover TaxSlayer Books Introduction webinar. My name is Dennis, and I'm the lead sales representative with TaxSlayer Books. If you're attending this webinar, you've created an account recently and are kind of gauging whether or not you're going to work, or we're going to work for you for the 2015 year. So with that in mind, and there we go. The goals that I set for this demo, just based on you all, the audience, is first and foremost to help you determine whether or not this program fits your needs. I'm sure you're trying out multiple programs right now, or maybe you really like ours, but you don't know if it does everything you need it to do. So I want to give you a clear idea of what the day-to-day use looks like for the payroll module and the bookkeeping part. We're also going to review the reporting capabilities to manage your business. And if you're doing books and payroll for multiple companies, those would be essential tools for you in maintaining your client relationships. Then we're going to go over some upcoming features. But during this whole webinar, what I want to do is make sure you guys get your questions answered. So as I'm talking, go ahead and write them in. There's a little question and answer portion. While I'm doing the demo, I won't be able to get to the questions immediately, but afterwards I'm going to try to answer each of them as they've come, and if we can't get to all of them, I'm going to contact you afterwards, and we can answer your specific questions over the phone and maybe even do a quick screen connect. All right, so I'm going to hop on out of this slideshow, and we're going to hop into one of my test accounts. So this is the TaxSlayer Books website. This is where you'll go to log in anytime you want to access your books account. And what you'll do, to anybody out there who hasn't gotten started, you're going to hit the Start for Free button and select the full bookkeeping program with TaxSlayer Books Online. We are just going to hop right into my test account. We already got it set up here. So as you can see here, I have multiple companies. In my user console, I've got an unlimited package, so I can have as many companies as I want for one low cost. And then jumping between them is as simple as selecting the company you want to work in, hitting the Add Switch button in the top right corner, and then hopping over into another company. So today what we're going to do is go through O'Keefe Transportation, which is just a test account that I use for demos. In part one, I want to go through the payroll. So we're going to go through setting up payroll and then actually using payroll on a weekly basis. So first things first, when you set up your account, you're going to have some information handy. If you have W-2 employees, and you have to have your employees' personal info and their socials and their addresses, as well as their W-4 allowances. In addition, you'll also need to go to the Payroll tab up top. You're going to go to the Setup column and enter your state withholding ID and your state unemployment setup. So I'm going to hop into our state withholding. I've got Georgia set as my state. My withholding ID is here. You can add additional ones by doing that and selecting the state and then putting your state withholding ID for that particular state. So let's hop back out. Next will be your state unemployment setup. This is a form that you can get from your department, your State Department of Labor. You'll have a taxable wage limit and then 3 percentages. They won't necessarily be contribution, assessment, and surcharge rate, but you should have 3 small percentages that you enter in, plus a state unemployment ID, which you will also receive from the State Department of Labor. So once those two things are set up, going through the employee setup is very simple. There's a 3-step process. I'm just going to go into my list of employees, and I'm going to kind of just go through one that I've already built, but if you want to add a new one, you'll just select Add New Employee, and it'll take you through these steps, but I wanted to expedite that, so I've got one filled out already. So I'm going to go into Keith Brigham here. Of course, you want to enter their name, social, and date of birth, as well as their address. And in the additional information, you're going to put in the pay period, whether it's weekly or bi-weekly or monthly, semi-monthly, and then you'll say whether they're hourly or salary. I've selected hourly for Keith. Then you have the option to enter beginning balances. If you're coming to us after your first couple payrolls, this gives you the option to get caught up so that at the end of the year when you generate your W-2s from the program, it'll include any payments you made previous to your first payroll with us. So for Keith, I've put some beginning balances in here for each of these categories. We also have a direct deposit feature that I'll go into in a little bit. But in order to set your employees up for it, you'll put in an email address and a password that's unique to them so that when you email them their pay stub, it'll be password protected. Then the only step is to enter the routing and account number. After that, you'll punch in their wages. So you've got your hourly pay type. Then below that, we have a lot of additional options. If there's something you don't see on here that you need, you can add a separate pay type. So for Keith, I've got his hourly wages set at 20, his overtime rate at 25, and then I've got several additional options for commissions, car allowance, and bonus. And any of these other ones you can actually delete right out. On the following page, a W-4 is going to pop up the first time you enter in an employee, and what's going to happen is you're going to select their federal withholding allowances and then their state allowances as well. You'll see here I've selected an additional deduction to come out of his paycheck, and this is a local tax. So if you have any other withholdings or deductions like 401k contributions, insurance premiums, you're going to go here and hit Add a New Withholding, select the type, select the W-2 box that it is going to be categorized in, and then whether or not it's a pre-tax deduction. So you can see here I've got Keith contributing to a local tax at $10 a payroll. You can also set that up as a percentage. So once you've finished, you've come to your list of employees that you can mark as inactive if they've left you or you've had to let them go. You can also go in and edit them and change their wages and withholdings at any point. All right, so once you have all your employees logged in, running payroll literally takes just a few seconds. So you have a couple options here as well. If you're going to be using the program to print checks out, you're going to hit the Run Payroll button or the Pay Employees button right here on the dashboard. The other option would be to go to the Payroll tab and select Record Payroll Checks. You would select Record Payroll Checks if you are writing checks out of a checkbook, but you want to calculate all your withholdings and deductions in this module. For today, we're going to go ahead and run a payroll. So the first step is to set your starting check number, set the check date. We're going to set this for the 30th, so for Friday, and then the pay period for the week before because we're a week behind here. If you have multiple pay periods, if you have some employees on bi-weekly and some on weekly, you can filter them here. So up next, simple enough, we're just going to put, not 440, we're going to put their hours in for the week and hit next. So you can see here we've broken down each of the paychecks with the total pay, with the withholdings, and the net amount. And for each of these you can go in and edit the check, make changes on the fly in case you need to add in a commission or change the hourly rate or the hourly total, and then we will recalculate the withholdings right here at this last step of payroll. So we'll save that change, then we're going to select all the checks, hit Process Payroll. It's going to give us another breakdown of the checks. It's going to make sure that we have check stock inserted in the printer, and then we're going to say yes, print, and then it's going to pop up with this PDF version of the check images. As you can see here, I've got the account set to this particular account set to print on checks that I already have my company and bank info printed on. But each of the checks, you have multiple options for the layout. This particular one has a check set up top and 2 pay stubs below that. So you've got your year-to-date totals, the amounts on the check, a breakdown of what the pay types are, and the your hours as well. So at this point, you can go ahead and save it, or you can print it out right onto your check stock. I'm just going to cancel it and go through this. So after you've run your payroll, it's going to kick you back out here to the dashboard where you can see your most recent payroll checks. And for each of these, you can click into it and pull up a pay stub in case your employees requested one from you. And similarly, it's going to pull up the PDF of the check image, except it's going to have the amount voided out. Real quick, I wanted to, since I've been talking about printing out checks, I want to go over the check setup briefly. In the setup menu, you go over here to the check setup option. You have the 3 options to print a check up top with the 2 pay stubs beneath it, to print your check in the middle with the pay stub on the top and bottom, and then to print on completely blank check stock. And this is the only option we have for that is to print the check in the middle with the stub on top and bottom. And we have a company we work with that provides extremely affordable checks, and we'll go into that in just a minute. Okay. Now we're going to hop down here to the income, customers, and expenses and vendors. So in this part of the demo, I want to show you how to record income, how to generate invoices, and how to record expenses and vendors. One thing to note real quick is that if you're paying your employees as 1099 contractors, you don't actually have to have the payroll module. You can just enter them as vendors, as 1099 vendors, and pay them through the expenses and vendors module. So real quick, let's go through the quick options here. You've got the plus sign to where you can record new income, generate new sales invoices, and add new customers. So what I'm going to do is go into a customer profile that I've already built and pull up an invoice that I've already created so you can kind of see what they look like, and then we'll receive a payment on it and record income for your weekly sales. So I'm going to go to my customer list first. You'll see here I've got 2 customers set up. I've got one of them is my Good Life Retirement Community. You'll note that this particular company is a transportation service. So if you go into the customer profile, any information you enter here is going to autofill on an income transaction and on an invoice. So you want to make sure you have as much information here as you can. And so I've got their billing info, their address, and their contact information, as well as an email address, and the GL account that this income is going to be associated with. Then I've got a daily sales customer, and this is pretty much blank, and this is just where I'm going to record all of my weekly sales. Maybe I've got a lot of one-time customers who I'm not going to be invoicing, and all I want to do is make sure that the income is recorded so I can pull it up on my reports. So back out to the dashboard, and notice I'm collapsing the boxes by double-clicking them. So I'm going to pull up the sales invoice that I created for Good Life Retirement Community. They rented a party bus from me this past weekend, charged them $1,500, and I entered in that they had Georgia sales tax to pay on it. So when I pulled up the invoice, all this information auto-filled on it. So you've got their due date, their invoice date, the accounts receivable, the billing terms, and then their contact information, as well as their account number. Then afterwards, we're going to go ahead and save it and take a look at it. So this is what the final version of it looks like. You can download this to PDF or Excel formats that you can then attach to an email, or you can print it out directly from the program and either hand it over or mail it out. So this, once you have the invoice saved, receiving a payment on it is as simple as going to the Receive Payments tab, selecting the invoice you want to collect on, putting in the pay type, the amount, and applying it to the invoice. You may or may not have noticed up here we had a little alert that lets you know that you had an outstanding invoice that you needed to collect on. So then let's go ahead and record new income as if you had not invoiced them. We're going to just select from the quick link here the new income. And on this page you can either use the drop down to select the customer that you're receiving income from, or you can create one on the fly and add him to your customer database. And this gives you an option to add in an address as well, but we don't need that information. Something else to note here is that the date will lock on whichever the first transaction recorded was. So that invoice was recorded for 1/20. I'm going to go in here and say that this is for the current date, 1/27. We'll say that he rented a van from us for the week. We charged him $500. Then we're just going to go ahead and save that. You also have the option to add additional lines. So you can go in and put in your daily sales for the past week. Put in an amount and save that all on the same day and on the same entry. So once we're finished recording the income, you can go out to the home screen and you're going to see that the most recent transactions are recorded here and also over here on your income and expenses chart. Okay, moving along, and let me note this real quick. You also have the option to generate sales receipts for any of these transactions that you can pull up and, like I said before, export to any of these file formats, or go ahead and print it and just hand it over to your customer. The expenses and vendors box is set up pretty similarly to the income and customers box. We've got a quick link here to record new expenses, to add new bills, and to create new vendors. And like we did before, I'm going to go into an existing vendor and an existing bill. Make sure, no, we're going to create a bill, okay. So I'm going to go over to my vendor list, and I'm going to note two things here. So I've got one vendor that is a bill that I'm paying on a monthly basis, and of course that's the power bill. And then beneath that I have a contract worker who I have set up for a 1099. So let me go into that real quick so I can point out a couple things to you. For a 1099 contract worker, what you're going to do is, of course, make sure you have their name, and then it's essential to have their social security number and their address. And in addition to that, what constitutes them as a 1099 vendor, so that they're reported properly to the IRS, is to select 1099 miscellaneous non-employee compensation. And this is really essential so that when you are at the end of the year, when you're doing your year-end reports and your year-end reporting to the IRS, you pull up this 1099, and it's going to sum up all of the payments you've made to Seth Babb and e-file them directly from the program to the IRS. So it's very important that you select that. In addition, you're probably going to want to select contract labor here as the default GL account so you can track all the expenses that you pay towards your contract laborers. And then you have your accounts payable here. So once you have these guys logged in, I'm going to show you how to print checks out for them and just to record general expenses. So let's go ahead and record an expense for Seth. We're going to pull them up from our drop-down menu. Similarly, with the income, you can also add a new vendor on the fly. We're just going to pull Seth up, though. We'll say this is for last week. We're going to pay him $800. You get the reference number in here. We're going to save it and print it, which, similar to the payroll portion, payroll module, what we do is create a PDF file of the check, and you print it out, on check stock that you can purchase from us. And of course, it has Seth's information on here, that it's contract labor, and then a description of what it's for. All right, and in addition, you can also go in here and record your other bills. And simply save them without actually printing out a check. So, just like we said before with the income and payroll, your income and expenses are going to be recorded over here on your profit and loss chart, as well as the numerical values right above that. One more feature here, I want to go through adding a new bill. This would be, let's just go back to our power bill. This is going to be the bill that is due for the following month. This will give us a little reminder. And you can see it's automatically registered as a utility bill. We're going to save that. Oh, there we go. We're going to save that bill and then back out on the dashboard. You'll notice that we've got a new alert here that lets us know that we have an unpaid bill. So you can either click on this little exclamation mark, or you can go down here to your bills and see that you have one outstanding, or go over to the print checks and see that you have a check to print. You can go here, put in whatever the check number is, and select that you want to print it out. All right, now on to the third part of the demo. We're going to go over reports real quick, and I'm going to try to keep this to the reports that I think are really relevant to each of you. I know some of you probably have some more specific reports you may want to look at afterwards, and I'd be more than happy to go over them with you. Right now we're going to focus on a couple main ones, though, your profit and loss, and then I want to go through your quarterly reporting for payroll, in case you plan on using the program to file your 941s, 940s, and then your year-end forms for your W-2s and 1099s. So there's a couple ways to access your profit and loss report, or as you may want to call it, your income statement. The quickest way would be to go over here to the income and expense chart. And you're just going to select whichever month that you have the transactions recorded in. And you'll notice we have your most recent 6 months here. So we'll click on the most recent one. We can collapse this little sidebar. So what this does, for anybody who's not real familiar with this particular report, this gives you a pretty good snapshot of your company's health. So you know whether or not you're making money or spending more money than you're making at any given point. So for this month, you'll notice I'm in the hole, $750. And then we've got percentages next to each of the numerical values that let you know what either the sales or services or expenses are in relation to your total income, which is listed right here. So you'll notice the salary and wages is eating up 93% of my income, so I can look at that and say, well, maybe I need to make an adjustment there to make sure that I remain profitable. Then on the right-hand side of this report, you've got several options to customize it. If you wanted to put in a date range for maybe third quarter, or you just wanted January and February separated, you can go in here and change this date. You can use our little calendar here. I know this is in the future, but if you needed to, you'd be able to do that. You can also pull up your year-to-date totals right alongside it. Select whether you're on a cash or accrual accounting method. And then you can also customize the report name to fit, what you want it to read, as well as with the footer text. For any of you who are doing books for multiple companies, you may want to put your firm's name in there in the footer text. So let's update that. You'll notice we've got our year-to-date totals right alongside our month-to-date totals. And then the date range and the title is changed as well. One thing to note here on this report is that all of our reports that we offer are functional. So we can go into the services and say where exactly that came from. We can go into the sales and say, well, where did that $6,500 come from? This will take us to our list of receipts. So we've got our deposit for $4,000, $2,000, and $500. Then we can dig a little deeper and see, we want to take a look at that particular transaction. Maybe that was supposed to be $50 instead of $500, so we can edit it there and change it. And then once we refresh that report, it's going to be reflected accurately. All right, up next we're going to go into the payroll report. And the other way to access that profit and loss before I move on is to go to your Reports tab and go to the Profit and Loss hyperlink. You'll see you've got a slew of other reports that we offer here, including your balance sheet, your trial balance, as well as the rest of them listed here, which, like I said, we can go into more detail about afterwards. For payroll, one of the things that you're going to want to keep up with, of course, is your payroll taxes. So we're going to pull up our Form 941. What you'll do is select the quarter that you need to file for. So I'm just going to pull up the first quarter here. We're going to go ahead and select Go. It's going to autofill the form for us, and then you can enter in whether or not you already made payments or any other adjustments you need to make to the report. On the second page, it allows you to put in a third-party designee for the quarter in case you need someone else to speak on your behalf, as well as a paid preparer portion of the form, so that when it's sent to the IRS, it reports back that someone's prepared it for you, or that you, if you are a preparer, has prepared it for that particular client. Then you'll notice at the bottom we've got the option there to either e-file it or print it out in the form. Before it gets to the end of the quarter, you may want to keep track of that by checking your tax liability report, and this will give you an idea of how much money you need to have set aside for each of those payments for your state and federal withholdings. And again, just like the profit and loss report, this report is customizable, so you can select a specific date range and pull up your tax liability for that term. All right, over here for 1099 and W-2 e-filing, I know this is a real hot topic for a lot of you right now who are trying to get your year-end forms in from last year. So in order to do that, you'll go to your 1099 W-2 program, which is included in the payroll package, as well as the books package. The options here, you'll notice in the information returns, you can either create W-2s, create 1099s, or just go to the program. Something to note here, it's a very, very nice shortcut. If you use the program to record your payroll throughout the year, next January, all it'll take to generate the forms is to select Create W-2s. And what we're going to do is pull all the information that you've entered in the books in the past year and put it on a W-2 for each of the employees that you have been paying over the past 12 months. Same thing is for the 1099s for all your contract laborers. We're going to generate a 1099 for each of the ones you have recorded in your books program. So we're just going to hop over to that program. If you don't have that information entered, or perhaps you still haven't filed your 2014 forms, you can go in here and create new forms where you will manually fill in the personal information and all the wages and withholdings for that particular employee. All right, and then hopping back in between these two programs is as simple as hitting return to books. Okay. Let's see, there's one quick thing I wanted to note. Earlier I pulled up a invoice, and you saw that it had the sales tax entered on it. There's also a little option here to enter your sales tax percentages. I've got Georgia entered in here at 7%, and then you can go to your reports and pull up your sales tax liability, and we will give you a breakdown of your sales tax liability there. And like with the other reports, you can customize the date range for it, so you can keep a steady pulse on that portion of your sales. Okay, so that's pretty much it with the demo. I will answer any additional questions afterwards about it as well, so please make sure you're writing those down. Two quick things over here. If you're a professional accountant, you're probably more interested, or you could be more interested in recording after the fact income and expenses. We've got a journal entries module just for that, so you can do double entry accounting, put in a description, set the date, whether it's now or in the past, and put in a journal entry ID. For all of you, you probably are all interested in your reconciliations. So you'll go in here. This way you can balance out your checkbook and make sure that you don't have any checks floating out there that haven't been cashed. All right, so now I'm going to finish up the slideshow here, and then we're coming right up on 35 minutes. I believe I told you it'd be between 25 and 30 minutes, so we're a little over, but I'm going to go ahead and hop on to the next slide. So some of you, I don't know if you've looked too far into the actual cost of the program. I know many of you are in your free 30-day trial, so I wanted to go over this with you really quick. The books-only version, which includes your 1099 vendor payments, so if you have a contract laborer, you're able to track their payments and print out checks for them with the books-only version for $6.95. It also includes check printing, invoicing, bill tracking. So anything we went over in the income and expenses portion of the demo, as well as the financial reports, such as your balance report, your sales tax, and your profit and loss. The books and payroll option is definitely an incredible value compared to some of our competitors. So for $19.95 a month, or about $240 a year, you've got a full accounting and payroll package with no cap on the number of employees. So you can have one employee or you can have 50 employees. It allows you to e-file your 941s, 940s, W-2s, and 1099s. The only additional fee you'd come across is if you wanted to opt into direct deposit, which is for very low fee of $1.50 a month per employee, which means if you run one payroll a month, it's $1.50 per employee or for the month, or if you run 5 payrolls, it's going to be $1.50 for the entire month per employee. So if you have 10 employees, it's going to be $15 a month, no matter how many payrolls you run. By far, our best value, though, would be our unlimited package. So for any of you out there who are, I know some of you may be tax preparers who do books and payroll on the side, this is a really incredible value. And if it's something that, part of your business that you're looking to grow, you can use this program to make a good bit of money. So for $60 a month, you've got access to payroll and bookkeeping for as many companies as you can handle, whether that's 3 companies or 20 companies or 50 companies. It's whatever you can keep up with. And for all of these, we include free support. So if you get hung up, contact us, contact me, or contact our sales or our support line. Up next, I'm going to just show you this real quick. This is our a new module that's going to be coming soon, hopefully within the next few weeks. It's a banking import system, so you can pull in your bank statements on a daily basis, drag in the transactions that you want included in your books for your deposits or your expenses, which is going to take out all that data entry that we were doing earlier and really simplify managing your business and save you a ton of time. So that's something for us to look forward to, and I cannot wait until it's available for you. That brings us to the end. So I really hope you enjoyed the demo. I hope that I answered your questions that you have. I hope I maybe even created additional questions that we could help you with. But in either case, I'd love it if you could contact us. You've got my sales line there, the 706-922-6755. We also have our support. I appreciate you coming. I hope you find great value in our program, and I look forward to working with you this coming year.